Hello world, it's BirdoPrey5, Qapla, and welcome to my review for Star Trek Discovery, Season 3, Episode 13, That Hope Is You, Part 2, the season finale of Season 3, the last time in a long time. Hopefully, I'll have to wake up in the middle of the night to review Star Trek Discovery. So the last episode ends, Michael Burnham ejected Stamets into some kind of force field bubble. He was pissed at her, and she blew up a part of the ship to eject him. Looked like she blew up the whole spore drive to me, but apparently not. Just a little hole in a wall so that he could get into space and the Federation could tractor him away. Michael got captured by the bad guy from the second episode, Zareh, whatever the hell his name was. They should have killed him in the first place. And the dots, the little robot droids, they all find Tilly and they're going to go help her. They say, "We're at your command to retake the ship." That's where we left off. So this episode begins. We're back on Kaminar, and we see a Gormagander, a baby Gormagander, which is a baby space whale, basically. It has the longest time on the Federation Endangered Species list. Dr. Culber is just watching it fly by in the holosuite. Why is it there? God only knows. This is the holosuite that was built by Su'Kal's mother. Now he wasn't in last week's episode at all, so we're going back 2 weeks now. This is the crew. This is Saru, Dr. Culber, and Adira beamed down at the last minute last time. They're all on this holo ship that Su'Kal's mother built 125 years ago, so that Su'Kal would be safe because she was dying, and they were going to wait till the Federation rescued them. She'd be dead, but she figured in a few weeks they'd come and save her kid. So she built this. It's a very temporary thing, but it's still working 120 plus years later. They're suffering from severe radiation poisoning because, as they reminded us beforehand, they only had 4 hours max on the ship. It's now been many hours. How they're still alive, well, I guess that just racks up to Culber being a terrible, terrible doctor. Because it's not the first time something he says is completely ignored in favor of story. So Adira finds them, and she brought medication, which if they could survive with medication, you say, well, why didn't they have it? Well, they tried to have it, but when they beamed down the first time, they were turned into holograms and they couldn't access their medication wherever it happened to be on their body. So Adira overheard this on the communicators when it was happening. So she knew enough to put the pills in her mouth, in a case in her mouth, so that after she beamed down, she could spit up the pills and then give them to Saru and Culber. And they ask, "Oh, is this going to cure you?" And like an idiot. And they're like, "No, but it'll buy us some time." If it would buy them some time, why didn't they bring more of them? It doesn't make sense. He said 4 hours max. 4 hours max, and that was with the medication. So how does this buy them more time? God only knows. But the big reveal, as you've seen, Gray is now visible because magic of the holodeck has somehow sensed Gray inside Adira's brain, or her slug, or excuse me, whatever they call it now. We'll just call it a slug. Her symbiont. And so now Gray has a body inside the holodeck. That's going to be a big to-do later because he's going to have a breakdown about not wanting to turn off the holodeck because then he'll disappear. Well, whatever. So Culber is telling Saru, listen, we got to get the hell out of here. The ship is tearing apart. The radiation's killing us. Go talk to Su'Kal. Talk to him about you. Tell him about you. Maybe that'll get through to him. Maybe. So Saru is the one who says that, oh, this medication is only going to buy us a few hours. Why would Saru make that call? Shouldn't the doctor have made that call? When did Saru become the medical doctor? How does Saru know how long the medication is going to last? It's just weird. That should have been a line for Dr. Culber, that it was only going to buy them a few hours. Back at Federation headquarters, Osyraa now is attacking because apparently she needs to fire a hole to get out of the Federation shield. Previously, it looked like ships could leave anytime they wanted, but they're holding her in for some reason. I guess they don't want her to get the discovery, even though she doesn't have Stamets. So the Vance tells the Federation ships to fire on the Discovery, except Voyager. Voyager, which is just one ship, they're going to take on the Viridian, which is Osyraa's giant ship, which is just outside the Federation bubble. Vance, at first, Osyraa tells the Viridian to increase their firepower, like they were holding back. So to increase their firepower, because she really wants to get out of there. So, like, I guess they're normally like, yeah, just fire at 50%. And unless I tell you to really increase firepower, then fire at your full firepower. And I would think, oh, that's pretty stupid strategy, until Admiral Vance apparently had the same strategy, because in the middle of this firefight for the Discovery, for the life of the Federation, Vance tells everybody, yeah, they better kick it up a notch too. So it's like both sides were holding back. Despite being in mortal combat, both sides were holding back. So both sides can go ahead and kick it up a notch. Apparently, Osyraa knows the primary shield generator location in the warp bubble, and that it was disguised as a secondary something emitter. Another thing that Osyraa just happens to know that we will not get an answer for this season. We'll probably never get an answer for how did Osyraa know all the secrets of the Discovery? How did Osyraa know where Stamets was in? How did Osyraa know where the Spore Chamber was? How did Osyraa know all the secrets of the Federation? They're never going to answer them this season, and I highly doubt we will ever get answers. So don't worry about that type of stuff. So Michael Burnham is brought to the bridge, and Osyraa and her trade some insults, and then Osyraa gets a report that there's a firefight on deck 7. Hostiles are advancing to the bridge, and Michael Burnham looks at her and says, "We are Starfleet." We are Starfleet. So my Tilly and the bridge crew are fighting their way up to the bridge. They're using the dots, but the dots, which are the droids, are getting destroyed left and right. I mean, it's like no mercy. We saw like 10 dots destroyed in 2 minutes of fighting. The dots just make turns and they get shot. And then the humans or the living people, they go in after and shoot the people shooting the dots. Not a very great strategy, especially when these dots are supposedly now sentient. But apparently they're volunteering to be destroyed. So the dots, boom, boom, boom. There are so many dots aboard Discovery, you would think they could easily retake the ship with just the dots. Apparently not. Apparently not. So Osyraa says, well, if they're fighting back, she has all the regulators retreat to deck 5 and higher. And then she says on decks below deck 5, she shuts off life support. So the Tilly and everybody realizes she shut the air off. And they're also venting atmosphere. So you're like, oh shit, they're all going to die immediately, right? Right? I mean, it makes sense. vent the atmosphere from the ship, kill all your enemies. No, this is like Austin Powers, Dr. Evil. I'm going to place them in an easily escapable situation and just assume they died. No. Osyraa says kill them slowly. So they are slowly letting the air out. So in 30 minutes, they will be out of oxygen. And then another 30 minutes, they'll be dead. So she literally sets up a scenario where they have 30 minutes to an hour to do whatever they want to help retake the ship before they die. Why? What? Do you not see this when you write this? How stupid this sounds? She could have killed them all immediately. She could have anesthetized them with gas to at least knock them out. Okay? She could have vented the atmosphere and sucked all the air out and killed them immediately. She could have beamed them into space, but you say, oh, but they've got the beam, the transport jammer. I guess, but it seems like if you have the frequency, you can beam anyway. I don't know. She could have done anything to kill there's like, 8, 9 people? She could have done anything to kill them. She doesn't. She literally puts in a situation where they're going to be alive just so that they can come back and screw her. Because we know how this goes. So Stamets ends up getting beamed, or however, he got transported back to Federation headquarters. So he comes up to Admiral Vance in the middle of everything and saying, Admiral, no, we can't blow up Discovery. I got to get back on Discovery. We got to jump back to the nebula. Saru's at the nebula. And Vance is like, what the hell are you talking about, Stamets? You're not going anywhere near Discovery. You're not going back to the nebula. He's like, no, you're leaving. You're going on the Federation civilian transport. You're getting as far away from here as possible. You're the only one who can use the spore drive. And Stamets like, no, as he gets hauled away. How did Stamets even get to the Admiral? Stamets, even for Stamets, isn't talking logically. How is he going to take over a ship that's already been taken over? So Vance is just like, get him out of here. They just pull Stamets, physically pull Stamets away, and they're going to go put him on a civilian transport. So the Viridian is shooting, the Federation ships is shooting. Somehow the Discovery is not destroyed in instant. There's got to be 20 plus starships inside there, all concentrating their fire on the Discovery, and yet it's barely taken any damage. In fact, it's taken no visible damage whatsoever. Usually, a ship gets hit by a phaser and stuff explodes on the bridge. Not anymore. Maybe it's been an update since the 32nd century. The ship looks completely undamaged. Even the hole in the hull that was set off last episode, I don't see it. I didn't look too closely, granted. There was very small shots of the outside. But the Discovery completely undamaged. The Viridian is shooting up the shield something terrible. And somehow the Federation is actually losing the battle. And it's their darkest hour. And who comes but the fleet from Navarre, right? Michael Burnham sent that emergency SOS to her mother last episode. And as we all knew was going to happen, Navarre sent a fleet to save him. But here's the problem. The fleet arrived within 30 minutes, an hour tops. Okay, maybe how long could it have taken from the time Michael Burnham sent that message at the end of last episode to this episode? There was no time break between episodes. A day didn't pass. This episode picked up exactly where the last episode ended. So maybe 2 hours. Maybe 2 hours passed since the time Michael Burnham sent that. And I'm being generous. It's probably closer to 20 minutes. How does a fleet get from Navarre to Federation headquarters. Well, you say, well, maybe they're not that far apart, right? Maybe Navarre just happens to be near the Federation headquarters. Except that in Unification Part 3, and I went back to double check this because I knew I heard this right the first time. In Unification Part 3, possibly the worst episode of the entire season, that's the episode Tilly becomes first officer, in addition to everything else. Saru says that a Federation vessel has not visited Navarre in over a century. In over a century. Navarre is so effing far from Federation headquarters, they haven't even sent a ship in over a century. And now Navarre sent an entire fleet of fighters, and it gets there within a couple of hours. Fuck you! Fuck you, writers! I'm not that stupid. I can't be that stupid on my dumbest day. There is no way for me to swallow this load of crap you're trying to pour into my mouth. Okay? I don't care if it's replicated shit that you told us last week that all the food is made of shit. I can't eat it. I can't digest it. I can't deal with it. Do some fucking math. So Osyra's plan to be released is she's going to release pesticides because her ship was carrying pesticides that she was going to give to Book's home planet. So if she puts pesticides into torpedoes and aims them at air vents, that'll kill the Federation. And Michael Burnham's like, no, don't do that. I can talk to the Federation. I can get them to back off. And she's like, you've got nothing to lose if you ask me to do it. You're outgunned, you're outpowered, but they're winning, but they're outgunned somehow. So Michael, she gives the Michael Burnham permission to hail Admiral Vance, and she calls Admiral Vance, and she's like, come on, Admiral. She's like, I know what I'm doing here. Wink, wink, though she doesn't physically wink. She's like, just let us go. Don't worry, I won't let you down. And Vance is like, fuck it. And they let him go. So some of the ships follow the Viridian and the Discovery, but they're out and they're headed to some star base, the closest Emerald Chain star base, to get reinforcements. So then they take Michael to Book, who is being restrained in sickbay, and Osyraa wants the Book to tell him about the nebula, but of course, where the dilithium is. But now Book doesn't want to say anything because last episode they disintegrated his friend Rin, the Andorian guy with the cut off antennas. So now they're going to force it out of him. Aurelio, the paralyzed science genius, who apparently is both a medical doctor and a physicist and everything else, his truth serum isn't working quickly enough for Osyraa and the bad guy Zareh. So Zareh says, forget the truth serum, let's just use the neural lock, which we saw him put on Stamets last episode, and it just turned Stamets into a zombie. It didn't really seem to hurt him. But apparently, because Book is an empath and has feelings, the neural lock would be torture, agony to him. And Aurelio knew this, and Aurelio refused to hand over the neural lock because it was just torture. And so Osyraa comes down, is like, what you doing, Aurelio? And he's like, I'm not going to give him this. It'd be agony on the guy. It's too painful. My truth serum will work. Just give it a few more minutes. And Osyraa comes up to him and says, the human heart is so simple compared to the Andorian heart. Not Andorian. Not Andorian. Andorian the blue. Orion. The Orion heart is so much more complicated. We have 6 chambers and blood flows in both directions. You know what? I'm pretty sure the human heart, blood flows in both directions too. It flows in and it flows out. Any heart would be pretty stupid if the blood just flew in one direction. Okay, if it only flew in or flew out, I feel like flew is not the word I should be using. But if all the blood only went in or out, that would be a worthless heart. The blood's got to go in and out. Now, you can't tell me the blood is going in and out of the same parts of the heart. That wouldn't work either, but whatever. I don't care about Orion biology. The point is she chokes. She physically, I thought she was force choking. No, she physically chokes Aurelio until he passes out, telling him that next time she has to do this, he won't wake up. He passes out. She takes the neurolock. They put it on Book. And of course, he's screaming in pain. And they're like asking him, have you ever seen a man die in agony before? Because I don't know. They want Michael to talk to Book. They're trying to convince Michael to talk to Book to get him to tell him where the dilithium is. Like, why wouldn't Michael just tell them where the dilithium is? She knows where the nebula is. She was there. I don't understand it. They know Michael knows where the nebula is, but for whatever reason, they want to hear it from Book. He's going to die from sheer agony. And then Zareh tells Michael, it's like, Michael, this is what's called a no-win situation. And Michael says, I don't believe in those. Summoning her inner Kirk and making me want to smack the television with my hand. Luckily, I cannot reach the television, or else I probably would have needed several new televisions this season. Sometimes being bedbound is a blessing. So Osyraa says, listen, the Federation's going to be destroyed. All your friends are going to be dead in 30 minutes because for some reason I didn't want to kill them immediately. The only person you have left to save is Book. So do you want to wake up tomorrow in a world where you've lost everything, or do you want to at least have Book? So Michael's like, okay, I'll go talk to him. And despite Osyraa saying stay close to her with her regulators, Michael gets close enough to Book to say, I'm sorry for what, I'm sorry you went through all that, and I'm sorry it's going to get worse. Michael, in one quick move, like punches or pushes a regulator out of the way, at the same time pushes a panel on the wall, which activates an emergency quarantine shield in sickbay. And for some reason, the quarantine shield is also, of course, phaser-proof. So she, luckily, everybody was perfectly situated that only her and Book were on the other side of the quarantine shield. But even more miraculously, the quarantine field only locked off half the room. The other half of the room that had a back exit, not part of the quarantine, apparently, because her and Book can literally just walk out the back door. What a most useless quarantine. I haven't seen a quarantine so useless since when? Since 2020. Too soon? I haven't seen a quarantine so useless since right now, basically. Ridiculous. They just walk out the back door. They walk out the back door. Book is perfectly fine. I think I kept looking to see. I think Michael Burnham gave him a hypo spray of adrenaline because they keep talking about adrenaline for the rest of the episode. So I think that's why he's immediately back to normal. But I couldn't quite see when it actually happened. And it's very shitty that CBS All Access, when you pause the screen on the computer, it just minimizes it. You can't pause on a still. You can't pause the screen. If I pause the screen right now, this is what happens. It shrinks. You can't see what's going on because fuck you, CBS. That's why. That's why they do it, because they're like, fuck you. We don't want you to see anything because our shows suck that much that if we let you pause on a screen, you're going to see too much detail. So, yeah. So I tried to look for where he actually got poked with the hypo spray. I couldn't find it. I suspect he did, though. And so what? He's got adrenaline now, so he's good. Michael's good. You know, even though she was stabbed in the leg last episode, at some time she hops around. Sometimes she forgets she was stabbed in the leg and seems to run just fine. Whatever. They're running. They've decided that they've got to go reprogram the computer. That's the only thing. That's the only thing they can do. Meanwhile, the bridge crew, Tilly and Owo and them, they're passing around an oxygen tank to survive because their oxygen is low, and they are also working to help to reboot the computer. They're trying to figure out how to do it, though. They realize they can't get past the current encryption, so they've got to reboot the computer, but they don't know how to do that either. So Michael, though, stole a ship's a communicator from one of the regulators that she had last time. So she opens an all ships hail, and she talks in code to Tilly. She talks about an old birthday and what they did and how fireworks always end a party. So nobody understood what the hell she was saying except Tilly. So Tilly, using what very little oxygen is left, goes into this spiel explaining the whole thing to the people around her. Instead of just saying, we need to go blow up a nacelle, Tilly gives a whole backstory about how she had a very sad birthday last year, and Michael Burnham found her hiding in a nacelle, and they drank, and they didn't talk about birthdays, and it was so wonderful. Literally, she's her last dying breath. The more she talks, the less oxygen there is for everybody, and Tilly is giving this big backstory. The point was they need to go blow up a nacelle. Here's the bigger problem. The nacelles are detached. The nacelles are detached. How do they get to the fucking nacelle if the nacelles are detached? Doesn't matter. Don't think about it because they didn't. So they decide, okay, they're going to build a bomb. They have the materials to build a bomb, a chemical neutral bomb, or whatever Tilly calls it, thermochemical bomb. We'll build the bomb. You work on the bomb. You work on the fuse. And then they build the bomb, and they're all going to head to the nacelle. Of course, as they're heading to the nacelle, they're passing out because there's not enough oxygen. It turns out Owo, who I always thought was a human, maybe she's not a human, or maybe she was a human born on another planet. But Owo has the ability to hold her breath for 10 minutes at a time. It's something she grew up in a cave. What? A cave? She used to do it in a cave in her home planet out of necessity? I couldn't follow. For some reason, Owo can hold her breath for an ungodly amount of time. So as everybody passes out, Tilly orders Owo to finish the mission without them. So, and we're skipping ahead a little, but Owo makes it to the nacelle, which she can just walk into apparently. Puts the bomb in some place, and then she finally passes out. And the dots, the robots. There's one robot left apparently. Now the robot can't place the bomb because we're told the magnetic interference or the magnetic field is too strong, and it could destroy the dot. So this had to be a human mission. It was a suicide mission. So Tilly's like, well, we're either going to die here or going to die saving the ship. So they all decide to go on the suicide mission. Now, even though it only said the robot might die, it didn't say the robot would definitely die. So, of course, Owo falls out, and one last dot comes over and pulls Owo away, and apparently Owo's like, you can't be here, the magnetic fields are too strong, and apparently did make the robot sick, but the robot had enough strength to pull Owo to the rest of the bridge crew, so when she wakes up in 20 minutes, she'll be with her friends, and then the robot will be there to die next to her. Yeah. So back on the hologram the hologram ship, Su'Kal had gone through a door, and then he comes back and he tells Saru, he's like, Kaminar's empty, everyone's gone. And Saru's like, that was never Kaminar, that was just a door. Kaminar is a planet, a whole world, and there's lots of worlds. And he's like, you must know you're sentient, right? He's like, I'm sentient, you're sentient. You must sense you've been different from all these other holograms. And Su'Kal's like, yeah, I do kind of feel a bit different from the holograms now that you mention it. Whatever. And then the monster comes back, the big kelp-covered monster. And Su'Kal gets scared, and Saru's like, no, it's just the monster from the book, from the folktale. You've got to face it. You got to go see what's behind the door. And then we never see the monster again, because the monster wasn't the problem, it was the door. So Culber, Gray, and Adira are out looking for the Vulcans. The Vulcans in the hologram story, if you remember, were the ones who knew about the Federation. They were looking for anticipated input. So they're yelling, hey, we're the anticipated input. And they're like, oh shit, the Vulcans are probably already been wiped out because of the program's degrading. And there's a hole in the program where you can see out into the ship. And so Adira's like, we need to go there and see what's going on in the ship. And Culber's like, no, I already tried. As soon as I went through, I got really sick. The radiation's a lot worse out there. And he came back in. So that's not how radiation sickness works. If he went out and got really sick, even if he came back in, he would still be really sick after he came back in. It doesn't get better. It doesn't get better with no treatment. But whatever. So Gray is like, well, I'm not corporeal anyway, so radiation can't hurt me. And why the hell should it? He's just fucking magic. So he'll go out and see what there is to see. So he goes out and he has to like walk through programmable matter or whatever. And he gets to a window and he looks, and they're on a planet. And honestly, he really can't see much, but it gives Adira and Culber a chance to talk about the how could Su'Kal have caused the burn. And Culber tells his theory about how he's a polymorph or something, and because in utero his genes mutated because of all the dilithium, and so then they realize that whatever scared him, and this is where they get the date of the burn wrong. They said 125 years ago the burn was 120 years ago. The math doesn't work at 125, but whatever. I said whatever scared him 125 years ago had to be infinitely more scary than whatever scared him when they first beamed down and he caused like the mini burn that only the Discovery and picked up. So they finally realize, okay, Su'Kal is definitely the cause of the burn, even though we've known that now for 3 episodes. They once again reaffirm it. Gray comes back and he's like, even though he didn't get to see anything of interest, he's like, yeah, ship's about to fail. Shields are about to go down. We got to get out of here now. I don't know what he saw that made him think that. I mean, the entire ship was already falling apart. The holodeck was falling apart. Systems were failing all over. What did he see out the window that made him know that they were like in imminent danger? I have no idea. Just they wrote it, so that's what it is. So Adira theorized what happened with Su'Kal is that because dilithium has a subspace component to it, that when Su'Kal screams, it's at the resonant frequency of dilithium, and his scream is carried along in subspace. And that's why the burn is caused. And again, it hurts my brain to even comprehend that a screaming child was literally the cause of a burn that affected at least the entire galaxy, if not the known universe, or who knows? Who knows where it stopped, if it ever stopped? Assuming it did the whole galaxy, or else the other half of the galaxy would have come by and say, hey, what the hell did you guys do over here? Whatever. Saru and Su'Kal are going looking for the Elder. Su'Kal is scared, and the Elder helps him, but the Elder's gone because the program's destabilizing. So Saru tells them they gotta get out of there. Okay, so now Michael Burnham and Book are fighting. Michael's working on a turbo lift to kind of reprogram it so she could give it instructions. Book is like, I can buy you 15 seconds. Michael needs 2 minutes. She doesn't even get 15 seconds. So they go to plan B. What's plan B? They open the other side of the turbo lift doors, and boom, they are inside the giant world, the giant city that lives between the turbo lifts that we saw the turbo lifts fly through in season 2. Yeah, well, now they're doing fights. They're going to fight inside that city. Michael Burnham is jumping from turbo lift to turbo lift. Shit's going down. It is ridiculous that they recanonize this ridiculously huge space that's just, I don't know where it lives inside the ship, but not only it's there, you can touch it, you can fly through it, you can fight in it, you can jump from turbo lift to turbo lift. The turbo lifts just move in the middle of space. There's nothing touching them. They create pylons as they go out of thin air. It's ridiculous. This giant city inside. So Michael reprograms a turbo lift to take her to the data core. She gets to the data core, and she's very cautious because she knows somebody's probably waiting for her. And of course, there's one regulator and Osyraa waiting for her at the data core. They fight. Osyraa pushes Michael into this wall of programmable matter. Why is there a wall of programmable matter? So Michael could get pushed into it, obviously. Osyraa assumes Michael is dead because, sure, you push somebody into a wall, you think they die. No, Michael shoots Osyraa from inside the wall. Perfect headshot. Kills Osyraa. She forces herself out of the wall. She spits up programmable matter that she swallowed, and then tells the dead body corpse of Osyraa, I never quit. Michael then, adjusts things to reprogram the computer, and she finally hard reboots the computer. For some reason, the computer accepts her authorization code, even though she's just a lowly commander and not first officer or, a high-level person on the ship. Whatever. She does get to reboot the Discovery. After she reboots the Discovery, she decides to beam all the regulators off the ship. Why she doesn't beam all of Osyraa's people off the ship? Well, they're going to need some of them later. So she beams the regulators off the ship, and she opens up a shipwide channel and tells the crew to head to the bridge. And of course, she restored life support. So everybody's going to wake up. Owo found out she's okay. Everybody else is alive too, because it was just that period after the oxygen was so low they couldn't live, but not so low that they died. And there's the robot that lived long enough just to tell Owo it was her honor to die carrying Owo's body back to her friends. Owo says, thank you. Oh, in the meantime, Book and Zareh were fighting on the turbo lift, and there was a regulator and Zareh and Book, and of course they Book kicks one of the regulators off. He falls down, and then Zareh and Book are fighting hand to hand, and Zareh looks like he's got the upper hand, and Zareh asks Book, who's going to make a bigger stain, Book or Book's fat cat? As like he's going to throw the cat down. And of course, that energizes Book like it was Hulk Hogan from WWF back in 1988. Oh, now he's really mad, and he throws Zareh out, and Zareh falls down the deep chasm like frickin' Darth Vader. Falls down and dies. He gets hit against another moving turbo lift as he falls. So yeah, that all happened. So they get to the bridge. Tilly gets to the bridge. Everybody gets to the bridge. They're all so happy. Everybody survived. And Michael says, I have an idea. And Tilly's like, good, you're in charge now. And Michael's like, what? Tilly's like, yeah, Michael, we need to follow you. You're in charge. So in the meantime, Osyraa, when the defeat seemed inevitable, Osyraa ordered her ship, the Viridian, to swallow the Discovery, because her ship is so big, it can eat the Discovery. It can hold the Discovery in its cargo bay. And so Discovery is now in the cargo bay of the Viridian. So now they have to figure out how to get out. So Michael Burnham is like, well, we'll drop the warp core and it'll explode and we can get out. And they're like, no, if we explode the warp core, it's going to destroy all of us. And Michael's like, not necessarily. She's like, we can jump. And they're like, we can't jump. Stamets isn't here. And Aurelio, who is still on board for whatever reason, and now perfectly awake, and has apparently changed sides, Aurelio's like, well, I studied Book's people. Book can probably jump because he has feelings. He's an empath like I've never known. And he, even though he doesn't have the tardigrade DNA, he can communicate with animals. So Book can probably jump the ship. So Michael sends Book down to the spore drive, which is perfectly fine, even though she set a bomb off in the room the other day. No, not even the other day, a couple hours ago. The spore drive is perfectly fine. Apparently didn't get blown up, although it clearly was last episode. Book puts his hands in the gel, and Michael's like, okay, release the warp core, where we see this warp core travel down a tube, scratching against things. God damn it. Anyway, she drops the warp core, and she's like, okay, jump, Book, jump. And Book can't jump. Book's not jumping. She's like, jump. Come on, Book, jump. Now would be a good time. I'm thinking of Chekhov in Star Trek 4. Now would be a good time. Yeah. Now would be a good time. The warp core is about to detonate. Jump, jump, jump. Of course, we don't see what happens, but we do see the Viridian, whatever the hell the name of the ship, blow up. Completely destroyed. Then we go back to the holodeck, and Saru talks Su'Kal into walking into this room that he was afraid to go in since he was a child. It turns out that this was the room where he saw his mother die. And that is what caused the original burn. And of course, that whole episode was recorded by the computer, so the computer could play it back for him. First, Su'Kal puts his hand on this little palm pad that you could see was made for like a little 5-year-old Kelpian hand. But he puts his adult Kelpian hand on it, and he turns off the holodeck, and it's very slowly disintegrates. And Gray starts having a conniption about how he's not going to be able to be seen anymore. And he got so used to being seen after the, hour they've been there or whatever, he can't go through this again. And Culber assures Gray that between him, Adira, and Paul Stamets, they will find a way to make him real again. They're going to make Gray into a real boy again, he promises. So the holodeck goes down. Sakul, whatever the hell his name is, Sukal watches the recording of his mother dying, and he sees that he's the one that indeed caused the burn. So he starts, and then he turns around, and for the first time, he sees Saru as a Kelpian, and everybody's their real people again, because the holodeck is down. Did they jump to take their medication that was hidden on them while they were holograms? No, they don't. I don't know what happened to the medication they had before, but it's just gone. But Sukal realizes he's the reason for the burn, and he feels really bad about it. He's like, oh shit. And he's like, what if it happens again? And Dr. Culber is like, no, once we take you away from here, it's not going to happen again. How does Dr. Culber know if it's going to happen again or not? They really have no idea. But anyway, now they need Discovery, and they're calling Discovery, and nobody's there. Discovery's not there yet. And of course, they do it a couple more times. And finally, at the last moment, right before the ship blows up, Michael Burnham's voice comes over the comms and says, hey, Discovery, it's us, we're here. And they're like, we're ready to beam you up, all of you. I guess they realize now that Gray is a separate life sign. No, Gray's gone. Excuse me, Gray is gone because So it's Adira, Culber, Saru, and Sukal. They all get beamed up. Discovery was right over the ship. They should have been able to see it out the window, but whatever. And they move on. They fly away. Right before he jumped, Booker said something a little weird to Michael, which I don't know what. But he tells Michael, he's like, remind me sometime to tell you about my mentor, Cleveland Booker. So Cleveland Booker took the name of a mentor, I guess. It seemed weird, but whatever. That's right when she tells him to jump and he couldn't jump. Okay, fine. So the mission is successful. They beam everybody up. Apparently, no long-term damage from radiation. Discovery comes back to the Federation, and all the starships are lined up on either side as a show of respect. And Discovery comes down the line of starships. The entire Federation is honoring Discovery. And then in Michael Burnham's voice, there's kind of an epilogue. We see that Stamets is still pretty pissed off at Michael, but he's very happy to have Culber and Adira back. Like Michael smiles at him and he doesn't smile back. Whatever. Jet Reno saves the dot, the droid that saved Owo and then died. Jet Reno is able to bring it back to life. So the dot lives on. The Emerald Chain, we're told the Emerald Chain falls apart without Osyraa, and the Federation is growing again. Trill rejoined the Federation. Rejoined. You get it? You'd get it. If you were a DS9 fan, you'd get it. Trill rejoined the Federation. Kissing Dax, you know what I mean. So Trill rejoined the Federation, and other worlds are considering it, including Navarre. And we get the Vulcans there. And Saru, of course, is taking extended leave on Kaminar. So he can help Sukal adjust to life on Kaminar. And so we go back to Federation headquarters, and we see Admiral Vance. And who is he just swearing in as a brand new lieutenant? It's Sahil. Sahil, the guy we first met in the first episode of the season. The Hope Is You Part 1. You see, it's called The Hope Is You Part 2 because Sahil is back. He's the guy who had been waiting for 40 years for anybody for the Federation to show up. And it was Michael Burnham was the first person in, so she could fly the United Federation of Planets flag, because for some reason in the future, unless you're in Starfleet, you can't put up the flag of the Federation, which is like saying a U.S. citizen can't fly an American flag unless you're a military officer. It made no sense, but yeah, so congrats to him. He finally made it to Federation headquarters. He gets to see Michael, and he's now Lieutenant Sahil. Apparently, not having to go through Starfleet Academy, I guess he did enough. He did enough. So then Michael goes to Admiral Vance. He says, "You wanted to see me?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I have a daughter, and when she was learning math, she kept doing it wrong. She instead of she refused to use numbers. She refused to use numbers to do math. Instead, she would draw pictures. But she'd get the answers. She'd get the answers right. So her way worked, even though it wasn't, the right way. Her way worked just fine." And he's like, "So Michael, your way seems to work just fine, even though it's not the way I would choose. Your way works well. Long story short, Captain Burnham." Yes, this is the season. This is the episode. 3 seasons in, not the finale. Michael Burnham is officially declared captain of the USS Discovery. So yay, Captain Burnham. And for some reason, now and only now, does the entire Discovery crew get their future uniforms. Yet the shitty Discovery uniforms from the 22nd or whatever century, or 23rd, they're out. They're gone. Goodbye, shitty Discovery uniforms. Welcome, new shitty future uniforms. Not as shitty, but, they're made of apples, if you know what I mean. Because last week they said apples were made of shit. Yeah, you get it. So they got their new uniforms. And so Michael Burnham walks up to the bridge, and all the crew is there. Adira now has a Starfleet uniform. I guess she got accepted to Starfleet too, based on prior work, just like Sahil did, because she didn't go through training. She just gets accepted. Book is there too. He's not in uniform, or whatever you hear. Here's that shot of them being honored, going through all the starships. And Sukal is like looking at all these other starships. So here's Michael's epilogue. So so she's wearing the new uniform. She actually doesn't look bad as captain. I mean, let's face it, that was always the goal. Oh, Tilly is still first officer. Captain Burnham and Tilly I assume Tilly is now official first officer instead of acting first officer. So we're going to have in season 4, supposedly, the adventures of Captain Michael Burnham and First Officer Sylvia Tilly. God, it hurts. It hurts. It hurts. But the insults have not yet ended, folks. There is more, but there's more. So Michael Burnham's, engage or make it so, or hit it, or whatever. Her tagline is, "Let's fly. Let's fly." So Discovery gets its new mission, and Admiral Vance says, "Listen, Discovery has to, we're mining the nebula for dilithium, but Discovery can get the dilithium to everybody in no time, meaning the jump drive, right? They can jump dilithium to all these planets. Admiral Vance says, listen, these planets have waited long enough. So Discovery's mission is going to be to get the dilithium from the people mining it and jump it to all these worlds. So the first mission with Michael Burnham, they're going to visit 6 different worlds, a couple of Federation worlds, a few non-Federation worlds, and a star base, and drop off the dilithium to them. So they have to jump. The entire point of it being Discovery is they need to jump to do this. But for the closing scene of the episode, Michael Burnham says, let's fly. And of course, instead of jumping away, which would make sense, Discovery warps away. Now, I know they wanted to make it look cool, and at the end of most, movies and stuff, the ship would warp away, and the music works better seeing the ship warp away. But the whole point of Discovery is it jumps, it doesn't warp. So yeah, little bit at the end there, completely screwed the ending. They should have jumped away, not warped away. But it's still not over. It's still not over. They then throw up a full screen Gene Roddenberry quote to make us all feel like, oh, this is Gene's vision. And it says, in a very real sense, we are all aliens on a strange planet. We spend most of our lives reaching out, just trying to communicate. If in our whole lifetimes we reach out and could really communicate with just 2 people, we are indeed very fortunate. Gene Roddenberry. And then, as a final insult, or memberberry, however you want to take it, they end the episode with the original TOS ending credits music. Dun, 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 dun. But none of the stills. None of the stills. Okay? Another half-assed attempt. If you're going to do it, at least go full-assed. At least put still pictures from this episode or the previous episodes of the entire season. Put still pictures behind the background music, so we get a feeling like, okay, this is something. Instead, it's just the background music with black screen and white text for all the credits. God damn it, this is like the freaking Mirror Universe intro theme all over again. If you're going to give us a custom Mirror Universe intro, then do it right. Do it right. It would have taken somebody half an hour to pick out scenes from the season and put them behind the credits. And it would have felt so much more authentic than to just play the music. Here are the new uniforms. Here's the new uniforms. Here's Adira in her uniform. And everybody's so happy. And Captain Burnham, even Jet Reno's still there. Oh, that girl Nissen that we didn't see her for 2 episodes. She just pops up. Michael Burnham takes the captain's chair. And she asks first officer, what's the latest? And she gets her instructions. They're going to go to all these planets. And that's it. It was insult after insult. It was a lot of action in this episode. It's an hour and 2 minutes long. One of the longest episodes they've ever done. But if you take out all the action sequences, it's a more manageable amount of time. We get this parting shot of Discovery. And here you're going to see it warp away instead of jump away like it should. And you see, look, the nacelles are detached. And now they warp away when they should have jumped. and you can't hear it, but the TOS music is about to play. All in all, this was a terrible season. I would revise my rating for Unification Part 3 down to a 1, because that was the low point of the season. I was afraid that wouldn't be the low point, but I say Unification Part 3 was the low point. I'd revise it down to a 1. And this was not much better, but it also wasn't even as bad as it was. It wasn't horrible. Lots of stupid mistakes, lots of terrible writing, really just par for the course for Discovery at this point. And I'm going to end the season on a 2 out of 10. A 2 out of 10 for this episode. And the entire season of Discovery, a 3 out of 10. Do not waste your time on this season if you haven't wasted it already. That's it, guys. This is the final Discovery review for a while. I don't know. I do have a couple of movies I'm going to review soon. There's a Netflix movie I'm gonna review soon, and we'll go from there. At some point soon, Star Trek Prodigy is supposed to premiere. I intend to put up reviews of that. And check out the rest of my channel. I do other stuff. We do live streams, please. Love to keep seeing you around. If you like my reviews, consider becoming a member of the channel. We could always use some more members. That would be helpful. Otherwise, check out Bird Prey 5X, my secondary channel. You can get to it at birdofprey5.com. And Qapla all, bird out.